GM, everyone.
Just me, or is Lo-Fi Radio having a hard time?
Seems good here.
GM everyone too.
So welcome, everyone. Forgive my voice, a bit under the weather, or have been. I'm coming out of the woods. We got a pretty special demo set up today. The DeFi is going to lead us through the charge that he led to get the V2 app into a really polished and nice state. Along, obviously, with tons of help from our engineering crew, the work stream. So with that, and to preserve my vocal cords, I will hand things off to DeFi.
Thanks, Adam. And I'm glad you're not sounding like an alien this morning, but hope you get better soon. Let me just pull up a window. We'll get it sharing. Alrighty. I assume everyone can see this all right? So this is a sneak peek of what we've been working towards for the V2 marketing launch. We obviously got V2 ready in, I guess, November, December with the bounty from Eric. There was a lot of kind of tech deck stuff that we wanted to put in, but we are now in a better state. Pastor Ghost, is the audio better now? Can you hear me loud enough? I'm just going to continue.
I can hear you just fine. You sound great, good as ever.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we had a lot of stuff in V2 where we want to kind of stabilize it, improve performance, and the way we're kind of like handling Bitcoin with multiple accounts wasn't great. So back in, it would have been just before the holiday break in December, we sat down with engineering product and came up with a solution to things where we basically weren't supporting accounts correctly. We didn't have this like concept of accounts, but now we do. So I'm just going to give a quick demo of this using a shared wallet or test wallet. So as you can see, we've also, with this big kind of refactor that we did in December, things are loading a lot quicker now, and the devs in the work stream that were working on this, so mainly Beard, Theobald Frazier, and Ryan, found it a lot easier to work in, and they've done a great job of stuff. So the dashboard looks much the same. You've got a list of all of your assets in your portfolio, showing, allocations sorted by fiat, all of your transactions across, all of your different chains and everything like that. Swapping's all the same. The new addition is this accounts tab up here. So previously when you clicked on an asset, it just took you to an asset page and showed you all the transactions related to it. And Bitcoin was kind of the basket case. I had this little like selector up in the top left here where you could pick like legacy, SegWit, or SegWit native. But now we support the concept of accounts. The key distinction is it's really important to think about it like Bitcoin is one asset, like Ethereum is one asset. But if you've got different types of Bitcoin, like if you've got legacy or SegWit native, they're actually different accounts, just like you'd have multiple ETH addresses. So now the new thing that we have on the asset page, so you can see in the URL here, we've got like assets Bitcoin. the thing you can see in the asset page here now is it shows the accounts that you have related to this asset. So on the asset page, we see the aggregated balance for this asset. So this is all the Bitcoin I have across all of my accounts. And then here it shows me the breakdown for each one. So if we're on this asset page now, it shows me all of my Bitcoin transactions that happen across all of my different Bitcoin accounts. So I can go into a specific account now and it will show me just the balance related to my SegWit native, and it will just show me the transactions related to that as well. And also it means that if I hit send on here now, I'm sending my SegWit native Bitcoin. But if I was back on the asset page and I have multiple accounts and I hit send, I now get an account selector and it says, which type do you want to send from? And similarly, like on the trade page, when we support Thorchain down the track, it'll be the same thing. When you go to send or receive Bitcoin, it'll be like, which type do you want to do that with? So we have this new accounts page as well. So this is showing your accounts sorted by your fiat value. So here's my Ethereum account and all of the tokens related to my account as well. So if I go to this page here, this is showing me the asset account page for Fox. So this is my Fox with the balance that I've got. We've also got the price chart on here. And then this is the transactions I've got related to this account. And similarly, if we went to like the Fox asset page, you can see that I have Fox in my Ethereum account. So down the track, which could come kind of soon when we support multiple like ETH accounts. So currently we're only supporting account index 0. We will have, multiple ETH accounts here. So you could have Fox across multiple accounts or whatever. And you can, similarly, if we choose to send here, if you had multiple accounts, it would let you pick, which ETH account that you want to send that Fox from. But if you've only got one, it just automatically selects that and goes straight to the sending and receiving stuff. So that's the main change. We've got this new concept of accounts in here. It really tidies up, this Bitcoin account selector thing that was affecting our charts on the dashboard and everything like that. You probably notice like chart performance is better too. And just across the board, it should feel kind of a lot snappier and it's just a lot easier to work in, which means kind of less bugs for people. So huge thanks to the product team for the mock-ups of this and Beard for doing all the great UI work. And then Ryan and Theo really did the bulk of the wiring up work. And then we had some support from Kevin and Major Hayes as release manager as well. So this is going to be marketed tomorrow with press releases and, tweets and everything like that. So, yeah, you guys are welcome to play with this. This is live in production now. We're just not making any noise about it. So happy to field kind of any questions there. I know it's a light demos today and not as technical, but this is kind of what we've been working on.
Just phenomenal. I love it. Loved playing around with yesterday. The like snappiness, performance improvement is really, really noticeable. Like grabbed me pretty much immediately. So the one thing I was curious about on the accounts page, it looks so similar to the asset page. I wonder if like we should have a label to say like SegWit native account 0 or something. It's really only Bitcoin that's at all a problem at this point because there aren't multiple accounts. It just might be, like a badge, something to distinguish it visibly so people don't go, where's all my money when it's just in the other account.
Totally agree. And we could easily put some sort of breadcrumb or something up the top. I'd leave that to Beard and Diggy to come up with something nice, but I agree. Other than the URL, it's not immediately obvious that you're on a Bitcoin account page, apart from the fact that the charts default to balance rather than price. Like if you're on the asset page, it'll give you the price. But if you're on the account page, it'll give you the balance. But yeah, we totally should have some sort of indicator here and be able to go back. Ledger Live does this really well, where if you're on this page here, it shows that you're at Bitcoin and then / the particular account type in this case, like SegWit native. So yeah, totally great feedback. We do label the accounts here. We know what account type we've got. And similarly, like with the ETH account, we should totally, like, if you're on the ETH asset page and then you go to the account, we should be showing like the address up here somewhere too. Great feedback.
Yeah, so this is looking super awesome. So kudos to the whole team that's been working on it. It's really awesome to see us at this stage, to this to be, you know, public launching in just a day and everything already set to go. I kind of jokingly asked this in the DAO channel, but I know that me and you talked about it briefly yesterday, DeFi. Could you give any update on what we might be thinking for adding the other Yearn vaults? I saw Never Was might have been testing something this morning.
Yeah, so I had a brief look last night at the Curve vaults, which have the best APYs on Yearn. We support all of those assets already in the asset service. We have all the market data via Yearn. The only complication would be just some design from product, like linking out to the correct Curve stuff. But in terms of like actually depositing, if a user has those assets, we already support them. And we can we can't do the LP bit through ShapeShift, but if they do the LP, like you said, and get those fancy tokens, they can absolutely come and deposit those into Yearn through our router. That shouldn't be a big change. It's just the copy and design stuff.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to just do a really simple link of like deposit assets here, then return to ShapeShift, at least to start, and then maybe do a nicer flow over the long term. But my concern is that if, you know, those are the most attractive APYs on Yearn, and right now the ones we have are not super attractive. So if we're really going to market this out, we'll get a hell of a lot more bang for our buck if we can include those curve vaults. So if there's anything we could hack together, just a really simple flow that even if users have to go external to add the assets, I personally think that would be totally worth it. And then we can always make the flow better over time. But it would be so much more attractive if we could be marketing those 20, 30% plus vaults.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Noaz.
I was just going to say update to the question. I was testing. Willie was generous enough to send me some LP Y curve to test. I did put it in a vault from our app. I staked it and then unstaked it. There was some some display stuff that was a little off. It showed it as USD. But it did give me back LP Y curve when I unstaked it. So it did work in that regard.
Right. Yeah, the technical side should work. It's just getting that link, and if we can grab Beard today, we like that we can pull something together. We also have some copy changes that we did put into the release. That's just going to rename the whole tab to DeFi, which I'm fully in support of. So we're going to try and sneak that one in today too. So yeah, entirely possible. We're in a pretty stable state.
Yeah, I think with Beard's help that there's a good chance. I see Diggy and Fox McCloud in the audience. Maybe one of you could weigh in on this, or maybe Willie, you have a thought. But I think if there's anything we could do to get basic curve vault support, it would be a really significant boost to the launch.
I agree, and it's great. It was something that Product was talking about yesterday as we were putting together our kind of proposed roadmap to talk about with engineering. One thing we were wondering too is like, is it possible for us to automatically add new Yearn vaults as they get added, and kind of come up with ideally a methodology that we can apply to any other kind of protocol where we don't have to necessarily manually add each new vault or asset as it gets added. Maybe something similar to how what we're doing with CoinGecko's asset list, where we scrape it and stay up to date. Something like that.
So on the technical side of things, we're moving to a release process where we're going to be releasing twice a week anyway. And my preference is we go back to doing like full CI, like, every PR goes to production. So even with releases twice a week, I think adding new Yearn vaults as they come up shouldn't really be a drama. We largely support all of the assets via CoinGecko anyway, so it should just be like pop in the new vault and do a deployment.
Awesome. And yeah, I love the idea too of just linking out to deposit liquidity. I think, Yearn, I was looking at Yearn site. They don't even do this on their own website. They just expect you to figure out how to get these tokens. So just something as simple as linking people to the step to provide liquidity, I think would be huge. The Give farm does a really good job of this if you want some inspiration. And I see, yeah, I agree, Ocean. I don't think we should run any risk of doing this close to public launch, but would be a great fast follow.
Ocean, my man.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning. Ocean did a great job along with Theobald. We've got the Yearn router contract deployed, and the front end is now wired up to that. So all of our deposits go through the Yearn router, and the withdrawals actually come directly from the vaults, just because it's cheaper for the user for gas, and the tracking still works. So what's it mean for the DAO? Yearn router means that we get affiliate revenues back from Yearn for any of the profit that they make on the TVL that we add to their vaults. So in the spirit of Willy's no fees at the application layer, we're not adding any fees. This is purely done at the protocol layer, and it's a non-zero sum game. This doesn't come out of the user's yield. This comes out of the benefit that Yearn gets. So Yearn wins, DAO wins, user wins. Super stoked about that going in.
So I think John has a good point that it could, if it is really low risk, if we're just adding new contract addresses and it's as simple as that, is it even possible for us to just push out? I'm sure it is just a single change like that, and is that something we should consider?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought would be you just add the vaults, which should be, according to DeFi, I believe, very just like one line changes. You just change the basically the file that's pointing at them, and then you would need to add the links. I don't know if that's too much beforehand or not, but again, the difference between launching with vaults that have 20 to 30% yields and vaults that have 5% and less yields, which is what most of them are right now, is significant.
I would defer to Ocean on the risk and complexity of doing such thing. I agree. It'd be great to have higher interest vaults in there.
I was just going to say, I was going to defer to DeFi. I think it's his call. I think it is low risk. Even low risk changes can be bigger issues as this close to a major public launch. But I'll just let DeFi decide. I think that's fine. He knows the application best, and I think it's a good call for him to make.
There's no Solidity or core code change type stuff. It's more or less just tell it about another vault address that it could use. But
yeah, we've got all the asset data. Like if you pull up Yearn at the moment and look at like these like YB, like Australian dollar or euro vaults that have got the good vault like yields, we have the asset data. The work that Theo did on the market service to add the Yearn market adapter, we have the pricing from them. The charts look jank, but for the purposes of like depositing, withdrawing, we have that data. So we have everything we need that we do for like USDC vaults. So I think if we kind of sat down together in a room, added a few lines for the ones we want to support, cut a hotfix branch and had ops just test that stuff specifically, if that's good, I'm happy to include it.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, let's do that ASAP and test the hell out of it today so we can change our minds if we need to.
Mm-hmm. So as I remember, it should be very easy to add a new vault. The issue that I had with some of the vaults that were listed was the underlying token to that vault was not on the CoinGecko list. So that's what you want to look out for. It's super easy to add a new vault, but if the underlying token is not coming back from CoinCap or CoinGecko, then that user doesn't really have the ability to get that underlying token to put into the vault.
Yeah, so we do have the underlyings is the thing that I checked. So as long as, like Willy was saying, with the giver thing, as long as they can go and get that underlying, they can provide liquidity elsewhere and then come and do the stake bit, then we can totally do that.
Yeah, if that's the case now that the underlying token is coming back with asset data and market data, then I say go for it. It should just be adding to that config list, the list of vaults.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out that this would, even with that extra step, this would still be a better experience than you using Yearn directly, because you have to do that same thing. If I yearn.fi, I still have to go out to the Curve vault directly and add and come back to yearn, etc. So it's not like we're creating a worse experience. It's still a better experience, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's sit down after the stage and see what we can do.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry to push this all. I know I was talking over the last few weeks about this, but I do think it would add considerable juice to our launch. So if possible, great. If not, we'll deal with it.
Worst case, I think it comes on Tuesday, right? Like we've got, all of Friday, Monday to get it done, and then do our regular release then.
Yeah, and I don't think that would be the end of the world. I just know that if you get a tweet out, I know Eric's in the audience there. If we get a tweet out from someone like Eric, advertising that you can earn 20 to 30% plus using Shapeshift interface, that's way more enticing and interesting than if we're trying to, mark it out 4 or 5%.
Totally. Can I tease a few more things that are coming soon?
Of course, I'll get off the stage.
I'm going to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So we've had an amazing amount of PRs from community members recently. I think Gomez is chilling in the audience. Is Gomez with us this morning? I know he joined stand up. Yes, he is.
Yeah, I see him there.
So yeah, this is ENS address lookups. So Ethereum name service, more commonly known as the .eth addresses. Technically any top-level domain, but Gomez has done an amazing job. He did this on his own volition without a ticket, and then we kind of circled back with products, so we covered the entire app. But this would support sending to ENS names, receiving, showing ENS names, and a few other places, I believe, as well. But this is going to come across the app. This PR is queued up and ready to go. We just didn't want to include it in terms of the size, and we just want a nice regression test for it. But it's almost entirely likely that this will be in a release by next week. So we're going to have ENS name support. We also have from the XDeFi team themselves a draft PR to add XDeFi wallet support, and we've got a meeting queued up with them Monday to chat about how we could potentially work with them. So there's two really cool features, new wallet support and ENS too. So super stoked about those. Both of them are from, Gomez, contributor that's done a lot of great PRs already, and just keeps punching out great work. And then from, another kind of partner, so to speak, the wallet, XDeFi wallet team themselves. So super cool to see contributions from outside the work stream, and super valuable stuff at that as well. So yeah, anything that you want to add, spread the word to other partners, other parts of the community, and we're getting the tech side is in a much more robust place where we're able to accept these contributions now.
Love to see it. Go ahead, Adam. I saw you saying it.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you much, Gomez. That's huge for us. I'm curious, about other naming systems, like what it'll look like if we were to add support for, I don't know, Theo or Star Name from Cosmos and other things like that.
Or Yat, who has that integration bounty up.
Yeah. Good question.
How that'll all hook in.
Yeah, we've got a related ticket for the wallet naming as well. I think Gomez is actually going to take that once we can physically get a key to him in this era of supply chain nonsense. But we'll be showing, the Portis email address or the key name or the shortened ETH address, typically the first 4 and last 4 characters, or, shortened Bitcoin address for wallets connected. So that'll be coming as well. There's obviously, that Yat one outstanding. The Cosmos stuff, I'd totally defer to you, Adam, but absolutely we can do that too.
Definitely on the same step. It would be great if we could just support both sending to an address or sending to any of these different types of name standards. The naming standards are tough. It's going to be really interesting to see who wins, right? Because it's much better to have, there's a lot of network effects with these naming conventions and protocols. So will be very interesting to see which one wins. Right now, it does seem like ENS has the most traction. But it's Ethereum. It's Ethereum only. You can only have it with Ethereum address, but you can link up other addresses to it, like you can with FIO.
Yep.
Hey, DeFi, sorry to put you on the spot, but I was wondering if maybe we could see, are we able to demo the copy changes that we're making in the, how we're kind of evolving the current page to a DeFi page? Cool.
Maybe. Let me see.
Cool.
We got Beard in the audience.
I'm not seeing a Beard.
Let's see if we can pull up.
Hey, I think Beard's a little bit under the weather.
Okay.
So he's not here.
Give me 2 seconds, Willie. You really did put me on the spot, didn't you?
I'll stall for you. So yeah, this is we were having a conversation just yesterday morning. DeFi Cafe sent me the release candidate. We were checking it out, and it was looking super good. But we were kind of thinking ahead a little bit further into some future features that we plan to support, and trying to plan ahead for our UI UX and how we fit all these different DeFi protocols into a nice, seamless, easy to use user experience. And so right now, if you guys are on app.shapeshift.com, you'll see that we have this like piggy bank icon, and that takes you to an Earn tab. And then on the Earn tab, we have like the overview, and then we have staking and vaults. And right now, we just have vaults basically from Yearn, but we obviously plan to support staking soon with this Cosmos Epic. And the idea is that we'll have both staking opportunities as well as Yearn opportunities showing up side by side. But we were thinking to future features, and one example is like this Rari UI UX that we demoed at the last product office hours. And when we integrate Rari, we'll also have all these opportunities to earn yield on Rari by depositing assets for lending. And so that's neither a staking nor vault, but there's going to be great, double-digit yields for stablecoins and for a variety of assets. And it makes sense for those to show up right next to these Yearn vaults, right? Because if you want to earn yield on your USDC, maybe you don't care whether it's with Yearn or with Rari, you just want the best yield, right? You should be able to see those side by side, not having like a separate staking and vaults and then like a lending. We will have a borrow tab, and you'll be able to see the opportunities in both. So what I'm getting at is that we made the decision to change the Earn page to a DeFi page. We're going to change the icon from a piggy bank to a rocket. And then instead of calling it staking and vaults, we're calling that section Earn. And Earn will contain any single asset deposit opportunity that you can earn yield on. And then we'll also eventually, you can imagine tabs on the side for things like borrowing or bonding or any other kind of DeFi protocol category that we want to implement. But again, anytime that there is an opportunity to earn yield on a single asset, or provide liquidity could be another tab. But anytime there's an opportunity to earn yield on a single asset, we're going to call that Earn and put it in that category, and then make the overall page just DeFi, so it can encompass things like borrowing and stuff that aren't necessarily just earning or staking in vaults.
Cool.
But we decided it's a big change and it changed a lot of files, so we decided to hold back. Even though it's ready to go, we decided to hold back till Tuesday.
Yeah, Willie, you give me performance anxiety. This happens all the time. I can't find you an ephemeral branch, but I'll try and get one. And well, if we can get the copy changes in and these Yearn stuff, you guys just see it in the release tomorrow. I think you've had enough sneak peeks for the day.
Sweet. That sounds amazing. Thanks, DeFi. Excited to see it. And thank you guys for making that last minute change. I think it's going to be a good one and help prepare us for the future.
Yeah, thanks for the changes. And it's like you said about Rari, it's like super encouraging. And then what Major Hayes is kind of going to tackle next with probably Theo and Ryan from engineering is like our more technical side of things, like one-sided depositor library, and we're going to like decouple the Yearn. So currently it's all in web. We're going to like split that out into 4 parts. So basically that whole like approved deposit withdrawal flow that we have with Yearn, that'll be the same template for any of these protocols. So whether it's like deposit to Foxy or Tokamak or a Yearn vault, it'll be the same flow. And then we just inject on the website, like the copy. So like, whether it's like earning yield or whatever it is. So inject the copy and then inject this like one-sided depositor library with an adapter for the protocol. So what this means from like a product or partner perspective, if you're, the new fancy yield bearing protocol and you want to come integrate with ShapeShift, you've only got to do 2 things. write an adapter for your contract so that our depositor can talk to your contract, and then write the copy and icons and stuff that you want to include in that approved deposit withdrawal flow. And that's the only two things that you need to add. And we'll be able to support your fancy one-sided depositing protocol.
That's awesome, DeFi Cafe. And I know we're getting a little bit out of the demo territory, but we were talking about this yesterday on the product side too. And if you see like what we did with the Rari integration, is that we designed it to both so that we can like aggregate it, and so that any lending protocol, just like you're saying, can come plug themselves in and then get aggregated. But we also designed it such that there's a UI UX that's just specific to Rari. And that same UI UX could also apply to any other lending protocol that comes and plugs themselves in. So Compound, Aave, Silo, and similarly with this Yearn thing. So I look forward to a day where maybe these hot new yield protocols don't even have their own interface that they then have to host. And then one member of their team is like paying the bills and is potentially liable if any regulators come after them. They're not really nearly as decentralized as they could be if they just focus on contracts. And it'd be very cool if by plugging themselves in, not only do they get aggregated, but we could potentially also could imagine like just an interface that looks a lot like Yearn, but it just has the Yearn opportunities. And then similarly, any other lending or yield protocol that plugs themselves in could also have just like a protocol specific page that they could point people to. And it could be a very cool thing if we're already doing the work to enable them to plug in easily to get aggregated, to also just do these generic protocol category specific UI UXs that any protocol can also get. And I think that really just helps make the case for like, hey, if you're a new protocol, don't worry about building your own UI UX, just come plug yourself into ShapeShift and get a free open source and soon decentralized UI UX for your protocol.
Yeah, they'd be silly to build their own UI if they just have to write an adapter and the copy, and we do the fancy UI. They focus on the protocol, which they're good at, and everyone wins.
100%.
Awesome. Thank you much. And Willie, thanks for pushing it and getting us to talk and demo a little more than we had on the agenda initially.
You can always count on me to go on tangents.
Oh, yeah. Cool. You got anything else, DeFi, that you wanted to bring up, or Diggy? Or for that matter, anyone in the audience is welcome. Jump on up here if you can, or raise your hand. We'll bring you up. Another one I can always count on.
This is sort of swinging to the opposite end of the technical spectrum here. I've got some web worker demo stuff to show off. This is performance-related improvements that will probably land soon, TM. Probably call it next couple of weeks. But it also provides a very nice foundation for many sorts of things in the future. Where is my Zoom here? Okay, my monitor's ultra wide, so sorry about that. It makes for a poor Zoom experience. But anyhow, I have a couple tabs loaded up here with the version of the site with web workers and the version of the site without web workers. And I have performance traces that I've prepared so that I don't have to run them live and anger the demo gods. The one on the left has web workers. The one on the right doesn't have web workers. These are both in development mode. So when you go to like your production site, it will have been built with a bunch of optimizations that sort of make everything faster. Those are very good optimizations. So, it does not actually take 6 seconds for our site to load currently. But if you don't apply any optimizations, then you sort of get like a apples to apples comparison. So I've done it in plain old raw, no optimizations mode. It takes 6 seconds, you can see here, for the site from when it is loaded from the network to when it starts rendering on the page. The version with web workers takes about 1.5. So that will, proportionally improve things. Part of that, the lion's share from that, I have to admit, comes from offloading a long-running asset data indexing phase here. That is something that could be accomplished via methods other than web workers. So I can't take complete credit for that, but it does improve the this function execution here. You can see it improves the performance of the real stuff that actually matters by about 20%. So that's cool. Also notable, when you log into a vault, a native wallet vault, you won't get a page freeze for a second or two while the vault unlocks. All that's done in workers now. So I'm excited, by the performance improvement, but I'm mostly excited by the relative ease by which things can now be implemented. You can see here, I think I actually technically have the wrong branch checked out. There we go. This asset slice page here. Previously, this, instead of await worker.create, was new asset service, and that was it. Okay, that's the only changes are to switch that and add these 4 lines. The worker page is pretty standardized and very small, and 11 lines long. And it just returns a new asset service object. The magic is that putting in those few lines handles taking the code that the worker runs and putting it in a separate module. It handles loading that module as a worker at runtime, setting up a communications link between the two environments. It handles exposing all objects, not just the ones that you specify to be exported, but all the sub objects that anything returns from functions or whatever off of that asset service as special proxy objects that allow them to be used as if they're in the same context. So this is exciting for performance reasons, but it's kind of more exciting to me almost for security reasons. I know that's a huge coincidence. The security guy likes security things, but hear me out here. The web workers are communicated with over an interface called a message port, and so are many other types of things. This infrastructure means that we can pretend like objects running in a remote JavaScript environment are native. And that means that they could be running in a web worker, but they could be running in an iframe. They could be running in a service worker. They could be running in a completely isolated origin. And that means that so ordinarily, let's say somebody wanted to come along and add their new asset to our earn page, like we were talking about earlier. Well, they'd have to write an adapter for it, and that adapter would involve JavaScript code, and that JavaScript code could potentially pwn everyone, if it was buggy or if it was malicious or so forth, right? There's a fairly high burden of review that would have to be done, and as that scales to involve a lot of different providers, that's real tricky. With all this infrastructure magic, that adapter could run in the sandbox. It could run on a separate isolated origin where it doesn't have access to anything except the interfaces it needs, and that will make it a lot easier to have confidence that, including a third-party protocols code will still maintain, our users' secure experience they expect. So I'm excited by the possibilities that opens up for, turning our platform into a modular, set of interfaces. The earn stuff is just the first part as far as, my, I hope that this can be extended to cover all sorts of fun stuff in the future. Anyway, whatever. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too.
I'm excited indeed, Mr. Nerd Hair. I'm curious if you've used the web workers with like IPFS at all. I'm only asking because back in the early days of trying to get the app to run on that, I think we got errors about web workers. I don't know if Conscience is here, but he was digging into that.
So I haven't tried it on IPFS, but that is like foremost in my plans, I guess. The reason when I say like isolated origins, the easiest way to get an isolated origin to run something off of in a decentralized manner is to run it off of IPFS, because you can use an IPFS bridge that uses a subdomain to index the content, and that means that the browser will not share. It's a separate security environment as well. You could take and just to sort of give you a preview of one of the things that's on the quote unquote security roadmap that I'm writing up and will be sharing when I have actually written it. Our native Vault stuff is all run in the same context as app.shapeshift.com, but especially with this type of advance, there's no reason that's necessarily true anymore. The malicious code that got into our platform, currently we have to vet that code fairly thoroughly, right? Well, we don't have to do nearly as good of a job necessarily, and you don't have to have the confidence in that, the trust in that if the secrets are stored in an isolated origin. So if my vision for the future is that when you load app.shapeshift.com, it loads like a 0 pixel hidden iframe to whatever the Vault controller is. And that's an IPFS link. So it's not dependent on infrastructure that could be compromised. And then it communicates with that over this infrastructure. And the Vault seed and all your keys and stuff is extra protected because it's secured by immutable code on IPFS.
And Adam, just to add to that, the issue that Conscious was facing wasn't exactly IPFS related or web worker related. It was the fact that we were keying off of environment variable that was the deployed URL for basically enabling those web workers to reload the cache or something like that. And so I think it should be fine on IPFS.
That's right. The
I
front
think
end
we
was
fixed that,
basically dictating where the back end could be or something.
Yeah, and we did fix that, Mr. Nerdhair. We just removed it because it wasn't actually being used anywhere.
So as long as we're talking IPFS and security stuff, one of the disadvantages of IPFS is that you can't set custom security headers, and the sort of default for is increasingly for web standards is increasingly to require that you put special headers in for things, which is tough if you don't run a literal web server. Well, Cloudflare Pages doesn't have that problem, but that's only because Cloudflare Pages has like a special way to work around it, right? Well, IPFS, is just serving content. So, you don't control the web server. Well, I was doing some research over the last couple of days involving getting Pendo to work right without, them having to modify their agent. And it turns out that you can set custom security headers using a service worker. And you can serve a service worker over IPFS. So, all that stuff that we probably may not have been able to get working on IPFS, we probably can get working if we just load a service worker off of it and then have the service worker, twiddle whichever bits are different between IPFS and what we would consider a normal hosting environment.
Super interesting. Yeah, I guess I'd love to see a diagram and proof of concept and just kind of see it all the way through and working. Sounds great. The only downside would be complexity and things to understand if you're working on the system at that level. But that's not a reason to shy away from things that get us big gains in security and features.
I did want to go over complexity about this web worker stuff. To do it, everything has to be async. So I had to make a change to the asset service so that instead of I don't know, whatever. There was a minor change I had to make in the lib library. That's what it was. It was is initialized. Okay, so is initialized, instead of returning a Boolean, it now returns a promise for a Boolean. That is, just for the sake of making sure that everything always returns promises all the time. That's sort of a prerequisite for getting things to work in a remote environment like a worker. We've sort of been doing that as much as possible for, when we rebuilt everything as Web v2. So there aren't a whole lot of changes like that need to be made. But if you are a contributor and you're wondering why we use promises everywhere, it's because, we wouldn't be able to we wouldn't be able to extend things in interesting ways otherwise if we defined the interface too strictly otherwise. Also, so if I hadn't made this the promise, the worker harness would make it a promise. It would just sort of magically transform it. But the cool thing about this setup is that it works in Jest too, where Jest, our testing environment, where testing environment doesn't have web workers. So it needs to be able to test things that you have moved into a worker without actually running them in a worker. And to do that, the interface that is exposed natively by the object should match the interface that is exposed over the worker. I've got a bunch of magic stuff that does that. You can see, here, there's a mock implementation of message port and message channel that gets subbed in if you are using Jest. And the there we go. And then there's some magic stuff here that detects if you're running in a worker and activates the mock version if you're under testing. So I had a version of this a couple of weeks ago or something like that that worked fine, but it wasn't testable. This is testable. Once I'm demoing the asset slice stuff here because it's not my code. The point is that it's very easy to implement, right? That you just swap out, a couple of, call it 15 lines of code, and all of a sudden you're in a worker. But it's not just you're in a worker and you're completely testable, and all your tests pass just like they did before, which is pretty darn cool. Anyway, like I said, I'm excited. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Nerd Air. Appreciate it. Who else got a surprise for us? Yeah.
If you want to
It's
see it.
possible that that'll wrap us up for today then. Any last minute hand raises or jumpers to the stage? Otherwise, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you much to DeFi and the entire engineering work stream that put a ton of effort into getting us into the place we needed to be to launch tomorrow. Look forward to getting together with anyone that's interested to chat about the additional vaults, the higher yield, and the feasibility of sneaking those in.
Yeah, I'll be
Thank
down
you,
below.
everyone.
Chat.
Sorry?
I'll be down below. Let's have a chat about doing it.
Right on. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to catching you at stand up. Next week should be an office hours week and then a demo. Thank you.